Hello, welcome to this performance of 9 world premieres by composers at the University of Oregon. My name is Arwen Myers. I am a soprano based in Portland, Oregon, and I'm so excited to be here sharing these pieces with you today. Welcome to my living room, by the way. Happy COVID. I'm really happy to have you with me. Just an FYI, if you see a really cute black cat walking by, that's my cat Farinelli. He's very happy you're all here too and is currently sleeping over there, but likes to wander when I do things like this. So that's who that is. I am going to just give you a little bit of framing for how this particular project, which is part of the Music Today Festival, came about. I did a live stream concert for Artslandia, the music and arts promotional company here in Portland, about maybe 3 weeks into the pandemic. And for it, I had 11 composers write me songs that were composed since the beginning of the pandemic, specifically for that broadcast. And one of those composers was Robert Kyr, who of course is the head of the composition department at the University of Oregon. It was so special to be able to do music that was composed during this really crazy time that we find ourselves living in. And when he approached me about doing a similar project with the composers at U of O, I was so excited. And it's been such a joy to work with these brilliant young people. We have focused primarily on self-accompanied and unaccompanied works because, of course, we're in a pandemic. So that means that we are spread out. We're not able to make music in the same way as we would. And I think being able to collaborate on new music for me alone has been kind of a best of both worlds scenario. So some of the things that I'll just kind of draw your attention to ahead of time are the simplified piano accompaniment parts that we've developed because I'm a competent-ish pianist. I wouldn't call myself a pianist unless under extreme duress. But I am not a pianist first, I'm a singer first. And I've discovered through doing these two projects that when you are playing and singing, you have it feels like about half as many brain cells available to do either of those things. So something we've discovered together is that by sort of paring down the accompaniments to the most essential parts, you can kind of get the feel of the piece without having that something's missing feeling, and also without my brain exploding. So that's been fun to explore. And then also some unaccompanied pieces, which we'll get to a little bit later in the program. But I'd like to open, you'll actually find the full program order in the description below this video. While you're there, if you want to hit the subscribe button, I'll be putting out some other things while we're all in this crazy pandemic time. But the first piece I'd love to share with you is a piece by Sarah Kitten, setting a text by Alfred Lord Tennyson, called In the Valley of Cauteretz, which is an 1861 poem that sort of beautifully explores a walk beside a river. I think we're all walking alone a lot right now, a sort of contemplative walk. And as the speaker looks out into this river, which you'll hear beautifully personified in the accompaniment part, the speaker finds herself, I like to think herself, reflecting back on other times of life. And in looking into this river, she feels that the past is very near. And I think that that's something that can resonate with all of us right now when we're not able to spend time with the ones we love, but we can certainly think of them and reflect on other times in the past. As we go forward, I'll invite you to applaud these composers virtually in the chat box beside the concert. This is one of the few times that you're allowed to talk during the concert. I'm happy to answer any questions as we have time, but certainly after each piece, let's give everybody a big round of applause. So let's start with In the Valley of Cauteretz, and I will start by reading the text. All along the valley, stream that flashest white, deepening thy voice with the deepening of the night. All along the valley where thy waters flow, I walked with one I loved 32 years ago. All along the valley while I walk today, the 32 years were a mist that rolls away. For all along the valley down thy rocky bed, thy living voice to me was as the voice of the dead. And all along the valley, by rock and cave and tree, the voice of the dead was a living voice to me. stream that flashes white, deepening thy voice with thy deepening of thy light. While along thy valley where thy waters flow, I walked with one I loved 30 years ago. While along thy valley, while I walked today, nigh 30 years, when I missed that was away. For all along the valley, down thy rocky bed, thy living voice to me was as the voice of the dead. And all along thy valley, by rock and cave and tree, the voice of the dead was a living voice to me. Thank you, Sarah. It's In the Valley of Cauteretz by Sarah Kitten. Yay! Thank you, those of you who are applauding virtually. I'd love to move on to what is just a beautiful tribute to a life recently lost. The Lord is My Shepherd, Psalm 23, composed by Jonathan Dinsfriend. I'm going to read some of Jonathan's program note. You can find the full program notes in the link at the bottom of the program in the description. And I'm going to be reading parts of them. I think I'm going to read most of Jonathan's, and know that my heart is with you, Jonathan, and thank you for this beautiful tribute. Jonathan says, I selected Psalm 23 initially for two reasons. I felt that the themes of restoring one's soul, choosing not to fear, and the comfort of the shepherd was appropriate during this time of pandemic. Secondly, with my Jewish heritage and Christian spirituality, I felt intimately connected to this ancient Hebrew poetry. Shortly after composing the music, however, I found that my beloved uncle had passed away quite suddenly and unexpectedly. He treated me like one of his sons, so his passing was particularly painful. I knew immediately that this psalm was intended for him and proceeded to compose the piece as a dedication to him. The day after I finished composing the piece, we attended my uncle's virtual memorial service, and my cousin stood in front of the family several states away and valiantly read Psalm 23 after explaining it was his father's favorite passage of scripture. May this music be a small offering of comfort to my uncle's family. I hope that it might also be a source of consolation for those who have lost a family member during this difficult time of isolation. To the Lemons family, we grieve with hope. And I certainly echo that sentiment. If you happen to be watching today, I'm thinking of you, and I hope you enjoy this beautiful tribute to who I'm sure was a beautiful man. The Lord is My Shepherd by Jonathan Dinsfriend. I shall not want because as it will lie down in green pastures, in pastures of tender grass. He leads me beside still waters. The streams of rest, He restores my soul. He restores my soul. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear, I will not fear. For your love, your rod and staff, they comfort me. The Lord is my shepherd. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm so sorry for your loss. I would love to move on to another piece that looks outward, looks out to a higher power, not named in this case. That was actually a theme that I saw in these submissions. There were several pieces that sort of turned out, and I think that makes a lot of sense, especially right now in the middle of this crazy time. We've been inside a long time, we've been alone a long time, so I think that looking outward, whether that's to a higher power or the universe or nature, I think that that is something that's really natural right now. So this next piece by Daly, Oh My Guide, is another instance of that. And this is actually our first of several self-composed texts as well. Those of you who know the art song repertoire know that traditionally a lot of the texts are pre-existing poems. And I found that a lot of the submissions we had for this particular program were texts by the composers, which I think is really lovely for this time right now. There are certainly other times in history when we've experienced similar things, but I think it's nice to actually hear from us, from the people living in 2020 who are dealing with this situation. So I'll read a little bit of Daniel's program note here. The text takes the form of a prayer offered by the singer to her guide, otherwise unnamed. The singer pleads that the benevolent being may reveal a pathway that the singer may follow in order to come into the presence of this guide. The text's two stanzas juxtapose a dark forest and a sunlit stream. And I found, this is Arwen talking, I found that this piece feels like a journey from somewhere dark and sort of unknown into a better situation, into safety and into a place of love and togetherness. That's what it feels like to me. So I'll read the text and then perform Daly's beautiful Oh My Guide. Oh my guide, show me the path. Show me the path that leads away from this darkened grove of silent oaks. Raise my eyes and lead me to the sunlit stream where you await me beckoning. oh my God, show me thy path. Show me thy path that leads away from this darkened grove, away from this darkened grove of silent oaks. Raise my eyes. Raise my eyes and lead me to the sunlit stream where you await me, where you await me. Oh my God. Oh my Oh My Guide by Daniel Daly. So beautiful, Daniel. Thank you so much. Yay. From here, we're going to take a little bit of a right turn into unaccompanied songs, which definitely is more in my wheelhouse. So I'm always happy to not have to play the piano and sing at the same time, but I've been also very happy to be able to play these pieces. Let's take a break and go to the first unaccompanied piece on the program, a piece by Sarah Jordan. This is a really lovely sort of contemplative song. And I don't know about the weather where you are, but I have to mention that this program is kind of rainy day music. And that's perfect because at least up here in Portland, it's definitely raining. Let me know if it's raining where you are in the comments if you like. And I think that this piece in particular is very inward looking. It starts with a hum at the beginning, just sort of as you would do if you were walking around the house doing chores and thinking. And Sarah says that this piece was definitely a product of the pandemic. It's meant to be a sung narrative about the thoughts that might be churning around in your mind at any given time. So it's a daydream about a hopeful future, but bittersweet because, of course, this future can't come to fruition. And I think that many of us are probably struggling with the pandemic roller coaster, which I am definitely riding sometimes. And I think that this is a lovely piece because it does nod to the fact that this is a really difficult period that we're living in. But for me, Sarah's text turns at the end toward the sun rising. The sun rises with light and white in the sky, and the day returns. And that's such a lovely sentiment for right now. So I will, I think I'll just dive right in. dreams will not pass. Fictions I cannot pursue, but quell my thoughts. Then the sun rises with light and white in the sky, and the day returns, and the day returns. Thoughts by Sarah Jordan. Thank you, Sarah. Such a beautiful piece. The next piece on the program is also an unaccompanied piece, and this is one by Mark King called Threnody. He starts his program note by defining Threnody, which I think can be useful for all of us, just in case we've forgotten. Threnody is a poem or song of lamentation for the dead. And he says, in this case, us. Mark's piece is a real throwback, I think, to the sort of narrative ballad, unaccompanied, kind of Sean Noce style song. And I think that it really captures beautifully that mood and that sort of sense of past, while also definitely dealing with times that we live in now. This text is also by Mark King. I think I will read the beginning and then let the rest unfold. Oh, come and hear the tale of man, once full of so much promise, perverted by their greed from arrogance to ignorance to blooming death. And I think that this text is definitely relevant to the pandemic that we're living in, but to me, it also speaks highly, sort of strongly of climate change, this incredibly difficult and sometimes it feels like unsolvable problem. So thank you for this work, Mark. I think it's really important that we address these issues in music. It's part of how we can move forward. Threnody by Mark King. Oh, come and hear the tale of man, once full of so much promise, perverted by their greed. From arrogance to ignorance to blooming death. Oh, come and hear the mother weep. A home once green and blue, now plagued in plastic bones, devoured by extinction's ravenous progeny. Behold the greatest legacy of man, a blighted kiss bestowed upon the Thank you, Mark. We'll move on to something a little bit different. This next piece is a song by Mitchell Davey, and I'm getting out my phone for a reason, not just to text someone. Mitchell has composed a piece for either and or Tibetan singing bowl, which regrettably I do not have. I wish I did. If anybody wants to give me one, send it here. Or a prepared audio track. And this is another piece on the program that is an outward-looking piece, but Mitchell's outward look is toward nature. He says that as we live in a world that's constantly changing, evolving, and full of uncertainty, he has found comfort, reassurance, and optimism in the outdoors. And he hopes that through sharing this piece, you, the listener, is able to share in his experience of calmness, serenity, and momentary freedom from the bounds of our fears and worries. What a sentiment. It's time for that, I think. And I love that this text, which he again has composed himself, is incredibly meditative. I think that it's difficult to remember to take a moment to just breathe. And this is one of the opportunities for doing that, I think. Thank you for your beautiful piece, Mitchell. I'm going to put my audio track close by and hope you can hear it okay. It's hard when you have a mic hooked up to your computer to get it to sound good. Mitchell Davey, Everlasting Here. Excuse me. There we go. Thank you, Mitchell. Everlasting Here by Mitchell Davey. I just want to listen to that audio track all day. It's so peaceful. I love it. Let me re-silence my phone. Excuse me. Moving on, the next piece on the program is by Alex Didier. It's called Manipulation. And I will read, I think, much of Alex's program note. It sort of frames this piece beautifully. In a time where the world is more divided than ever, we see how quickly any given event can flip the world upside down and capture our collective attention as one unit, one population. But of course, our very makeup seeks to emphasize separation. We can't help but to categorize and divide ourselves based on minuscule differences. The title of this piece, Manipulation, seeks to emphasize how subject we are to forces outside our control and calls outward to the entity responsible for our existence. We're here carrying out our own free will to the best of our ability and cling to what we know. But we are tired of being molded by forces unknown. We are tired of manipulation. We are tired. Manipulation by Alex Didier. That sees beyond thy walls to who I am. Bound by you. Yes. Help me, bring me serenity, for I long. I'm waiting for sleep. Alex Didier, Manipulation. Thank you so much, Alex. We have two more pieces on the program, and the next is kind of a difficult one in some ways, a piece by Joanne Na called When Every April Comes. Joanne composed this for the victims of the Sewol ferry disaster on April 16th, 2014, that happened in South Korea. I'm sure many of you remember that disaster, but most of the victims were high school students on a field trip. Joanne says their excitement soon changed to an anguished cry as the improperly overloaded ferry began to sink. Although they could have been rescued, the incompetent government missed the right time to save everyone, and sadly, about 300 people perished. Since the disaster was very shocking and filled with sorrow, I, Joanne, could not face it directly or think deeply about it for the last several years. I was the same age as many of the victims, and it was painful to think about those innocent deaths. But after 6 years, I'm able to face the tragedy, and I've composed this song as a way of remembering their sacrifices and the suffering of their families. As I remember them through my text and music for this song, I hope that they will live forever in our memories, especially as we recall their brightness and their youthful promise. Thank you, Joanne. When Every April Comes. And I think I'd like to, it's been a difficult spring, you guys, and I'd like to also dedicate this to anybody who has lost someone or has been alone and afraid and wondering what the next few months are going to bring. This is for all of you. know it is springtime when I see thy flowers bloom, and I remember that day when every April comes. It has been a long time since we lost our friends, young and bright, young and bright. As if thy blossoms were broken, to be thrown into cold, cold water. As our memories are fading, I am trying to hold on to them all. Hoping in that way you will live forever, my friends. Thank you, Joanne. Beautiful piece. So I'm so glad to have been able to share this program with you all. I think you all know why you're here, but just in case, these have been 8 of the 9 pieces that were composed for me by composers at the University of Oregon in the Oregon Composers Forum. All composed during this time of pandemic, all composed with an eye towards self-accompaniment. Not that they were perfect, sorry guys, and for unaccompanied voice to be performed in isolation. And I would just love to thank them all again. This has been such a pleasure to be able to do for you and do with you. And I can't wait to meet many of you in person for the first time at some point, hopefully. But thank you all. I will let you all know that I'll be doing a live stream with other people at the same time with 45th Parallel this Friday night at 6. It'll be a brief program, 30 minutes. I'll be performing with James Shield, the principal clarinetist of the Oregon Symphony, and Maria Garcia, pianist extraordinaire, my gosh. Live, we'll be doing Schubert's Shepherd on the Rock, 2 Bach arias, and a Schumann clarinet and piano piece. That's on the 45th Parallel Universe YouTube channel, which you'll find in the description. I hope you can join us. It'll be short and sweet, and it's like my chocolate chip cookie music. So if you need some feel-good treats, please join us there. I also would love to thank Rob Kyr for inviting me to do this session. It's been such a pleasure. Again, I'd love for you all to stay in touch. My social channels and my website are in the description. Follow me, send me emails, let me know what you thought about this. I'd love to talk with you guys about the program if you'd like. And I'll end with a perfect piece for a rainy day called Clouds, Rain, Storm, Scattered Showers by Abby Kellems. Super clever piece. Abby composed this piece in should have counted them before, 7 different languages, Chinese, Romanian, Japanese, Tagalog, English, Polish, and Spanish, to nod to the fact that some of her closest friends, who are all represented by these languages, are scattered around the country and around the world, and they're not able to be together. Of course, this is resonant for so many of us right now. And even those of us who are in the same place are totally scattered. We are not able to be with the people we love and care about. So Abby has created this piece which moves, these words all mean in order, clouds, rain, and storm. And it moves through this sort of beautiful tribute to these friends in this picture of a rainstorm. And I think that's perfect. I'm looking at one outside my window right now. So thanks, Abby, for knowing what the weather was going to be today. Good job. So I will leave you with Clouds, Rainstorm, Scattered Showers by Abby Kellems. Thank you again so much for coming. I hope you guys stay well. Hit subscribe, stay in touch. I'd love to have you as part of my life for these months of quarantine and beyond. Thank you all so much for being here. Clouds, Rain, Storm, Scattered Showers by Abby Kellems. And out the window, same thing. Thank you all so much for coming. Again, stay in touch, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you're into that. And please let me know if you have anything you'd like to discuss about this program. Thank you to all of our composers. It was such a pleasure to work with you. Sarah Kitten, Jonathan Dinsfriend, Daniel Daly, Sarah Jordan, Mark King, Mitchell Davey, Alex Didier, Joanne Na, and Abby Kellems. You guys are the best. You're the best. Thank you, Rob Kyr, for inviting me. Stay well, you guys. Thank you for being here. And I hope to see you all soon. Hopefully in the flesh, but definitely on the internet. Bye.